Okay, I'm going to get started, and by way of introduction, we'll talk about what's going on, and then we'll let Wei Yang speak to us. Unfortunately, Ms. Huang, who was going to come along, they've divided, right? And so I don't think they had a fight or anything. She went on. They're trying to cover as much territory as possible, so she's traveled on, and he has agreed to stay with us today, and we're very fortunate to have him here with us. To give you a little background about what's happening in Taiwan and what led up to the current movement, and known as the Sunflower Movement in Taiwan. Just for those of you not as familiar with Taiwan, I want to talk about it a little bit. Since 2008, the president of Taiwan has been a man named Ma Ying-jeou. Ma ran for president back in 2008, promising to improve Taiwan's economy dramatically. And he made a promise of what was known as the 633 promise, which was he was going to promise to have Taiwan's economic growth reach 6%. He was going to make sure that unemployment did not exceed 3%, and he was going to make sure that the per capita income was about $30,000 US. His primary way of doing this was to expand formally trade relations across the strait with the People's Republic of China. In fact, that's about his only policy, was to improve and to open up trade relations across the Taiwan Strait. They passed in 2010 a piece of legislation known as the Economic Cooperation Framework Agreement, which opened up trade and formalized trade across the strait. They've done some other things in terms of tourism and air flights across the strait to try to improve relations and to try to improve trade. What's happened in Taiwan economically? None of the things that he talked about. In fact, he could reverse the numbers a little bit. Unemployment is closer to 6% instead of 3%. Economic growth is around 3% instead of 6%, and per capita income has not yet reached $30,000 a year US. The president has also struggled, to say the least, in a number of domestic policy issues. There was a typhoon, and the government, it was very much like Katrina here. The government failed miserably. The public perception of the government's handling of the typhoon and the damages afterward was very poor. And there have been a number of other issues that have been problematic. The president's approval rating has been declining since 2008. He was re-elected in 2012, even though his approval rating at that time was hovering in the 20% range. Since 2012, his approval rating has continued to plummet and is now, by most measures, around 9%, which Nate can tell you in political science is inconceivable, essentially. We always think that there's a floor. You can't go below, 15 or so. That's a 15 to 20. So he's got about a 9% approval rating. His party has a terrible approval rating. And on a policy-by-policy side, the approval of his policies is also very low. Now, for observers of Taiwan's politics, this was befuddling, in a sense, confusing. What's going on? You have a president with such terrible approval ratings. You have policies that are not acceptable to the Taiwanese people. You have a lot of issues that are emerging, yet things seem to go along day to day, and nothing seemed to be changing. There was sort of a stagnation, that there was opposition, but there was no visible resistance to the president's policy. That all changed over the last few years, and primarily over the last 2 years, where the students and the young student leaders and other young people in Taiwan changed this. They re-energized things. Students across Taiwan, high school and college students and other young people, emerged and started to protest a wide range of issues, including a threat to media freedom and a media monopoly movement, evictions from homes and forced demolitions of homes, the rights of workers and labor, education policy and the way history is taught in Taiwan, with an effort to push for a focus on Taiwanese history, and any other number of environmental issues, nuclear power issues, and we started to see these movements across the island of student leaders come up. People who have been watching Taiwan politics saw that happening, but it wasn't getting much media attention internationally. This changed more recently, particularly in March, when the president and the president's folks signed an agreement, relatively in secret, with the People's Republic of China called the Cross-Strait Service Trade Agreement. And this was another trade agreement with China. This was signed and agreed to, according to the students at least, in a black box. It was a relatively secret negotiation, close negotiation. The legislation was then brought back to Taiwan, and the president presented it to the legislature, but basically said, you must approve this. And there is no room for negotiation, there is no room for revision, there is no room for modification of this agreement. After some of the protests and social pressure, the legislature finally agreed to a clause-by-clause review of the agreement. And this was what was supposed to happen. But in March, the gentleman who was chairing the committee that was supposed to handle this clause-by-clause agreement suddenly, unilaterally, literally by putting a lapel mic on and sneaking off to a corner, announced after 30 seconds, the review is over, this will pass to the floor. The students who were protesting the movement at that time outside of the legislature organized, and this is when they moved in, and literally physically moved into the legislative building, the floor of the legislature, and took it over and shut it down. Since that time they started, on March 18th, they stayed in there until this last week, and they evacuated April 23rd, so about 23 days of this. On March 30th, there was a rally in Taiwan. The students called for a rally in Taiwan to give support. In Taipei alone, there was a huge protest rally with estimates of the turnout being between 350,000 and 500,000. There were also other rallies across the island and also across the globe. And if you go to their website, you can see rallies in the United States, in Europe, all over the world, that people were rallying to support the effort of the students. The students became known as the Sunflowers, the Sunflower Movement. And maybe you could talk a little bit about the different reasons that happened, but basically, the sunflower became the symbol of the movement. The students were incredibly successful and accomplished a lot of their goals, much to the surprise of many, where finally the Speaker of the legislature agreed to many of their demands and conceded to those. They were also incredibly media savvy and politically savvy. So we talk about they have a website, they have Facebook pages, they have Twitter, and what was going on? There was a live video feed of what was happening. There was instantaneous postings of everything that was going on, press releases, speeches, announcements. There was simultaneous translation into, say, 15 different languages. So if you look at it, you saw everything from Japanese to Arabic to English to German, French, Spanish, everything, simultaneous translation, reaching out. And they were incredibly savvy in this way of gaining support and gaining the support of the people in Taiwan. At the present time, approximately 70% of the people in Taiwan, according to public opinion surveys, support the student movement. And this is an incredible accomplishment for any student. We're very fortunate to have with us today one of the leaders of this movement. And you saw some pictures, he didn't want to see those anymore, but some pictures of him out in front. And it wasn't just at the Sunflower Movement, but he's been active in leading in a number of different movements. He is a graduate student of sociology at National Taiwan University, and he has been active in a number of different movement activities and is a leader of what is known as the Black Island Nation Youth Front, and also a leader of the Sunflower Movement. When the students moved from the Legislative Yuan into the Executive Building, he was the leader and trying to bring order to that to some extent. He got in a little trouble for that as well. So today he's going to talk to us about the movement, about the reasons for it and the efforts they made, and maybe look to the future a little bit. And I would like then for us to have an opportunity for you to ask him questions and to have a conversation with him. So without further ado, let me introduce Mr. Wei Yang.
He pretty much explained all of that, so that left me little to say. No, okay. Because I was thinking that I can tell you about the whole context of this movement. Why is there a movement at the first place? So I want first. Have any of you have seen this news on TV or on the internet before today? Any of you? Yes. Okay. Okay, not much. So, I don't know if you can understand that this is a very, I mean, the incident that took place on the 18th March, when the students occupied the Legislative Yuan, it's not just a single incident. It's not just happened to be or a coincidence. It's a long-lasting discontent of the population. You know, ever since Ma administration took office, and there were the 2008 when there was an ambassador from China came visit Taiwan, and the Taiwanese people was afraid of that there will be a agenda of automatic unification going on, you know, between China and the Taiwan government, because President Ma always believed in that unification is going to take place, and probably because in Taiwan our generation of young people is called generation of strawberry, which means it's easily bruised or cannot handle pressure and just doesn't pay attention to political or social issues. So the wild strawberry came out as a counter image of the strawberry generation. So from then on, the student movement in Taiwan has become very vigorous. A lot of student organization. There were a lot of student organization emerged in the campus everywhere in Taiwan. So, and about 2010 or 9, there is a major controversial land appropriation issue which in one of our county called Miaoli, there was this science park wants a land, wants you to expand their factories. So they want this, for example, your house. They want people's land, and they ask the county government. And the county government just say, okay, I will help you appropriate their land, and so you can use the land to build your factory. And clearly there are some businessmen and politicians, their benefits are all the same, just on the table operation going on. And so people were very angry because there were no due process, and the government just take over, say you have to move out, I will give you a little money and you can go out elsewhere, buy a new land and buy a new house, but the place that you have been living for decades has to give to the government. And there's even close to suicide in the issue. So thousands of people gathered in the street, they step out to protest this violent land appropriation. So this is probably one of the biggest social issue or say demonstration that happened during that few years. And there's also an issue called 国光石化, which is the very big gasoline industry. Gasoline industry is a big. They cause major pollution to the local people and to the local village, and it's right next to our shoreline, and will cause a big impact on the environmental. So there was also this demonstration or this movement against this big industries, pollution industry, what's that? Heavy industry or yeah, against the heavy industry. So this one of that, and another movement just talk about the media monopoly, where there's a businessman, he has a very close tie with China, and he has very good relation with Chinese businessman and politician, and he tries to buy half of the Taiwan's media, newspaper or TV channel, something like that. And so it's just raise concern, about whether or not it will, the Chinese government or the Chinese politician will affect Taiwan's freedom of speech or our democracy through media monopoly. So there's a movement against it. Also, the nuclear plant, where about 70% of our population is against continuing building of the nuclear plant, but the government just won't listen to people. So what I'm trying to say here is there is a long-lasting discontent of population is accumulating. So it just bursts out when the cross-strait service trade agreement was signed in a total black box operation. And it was a black box operation, but even when people raise concern and they criticize for the black box operation, the government just won't listen. They just keep doing what they want, and just they even say that this agreement has to be passed in 30 days. You just say, well, legislative branch, you have to pass this agreement in 30 days, otherwise it will just become valid, and I don't care what you say. Well, then this is just a sign of the failure of the check and balance system between legislative branch and the executive branch. And this is a constitutional crisis. So this happened about last year around July, August to September, to October. So when last year, October 10th, which is our nation's, what's that?
National Day.
Oh yeah, National Day. The October 10th is our National Day, and on that day there is about 100,000 people gather around Taipei Street and protest, say, well, now it's not a day to celebrate our national birthday. Now it's a day that we mourn for our failure of our constitution, and the president should come out and listen to the people. So anyway, there's a long, just accumulating discontent till today, the 32nd deliberation, or I shall not say deliberation because it's not, there's no deliberation, just manipulation. Like, yeah, this should be the term to describe it. And okay, so that's that's the context. And the Don want me to introduce our organization, which you can go back to the picture where we held activities. So this is our legislative yuan. It says legislative yuan. And we found I'm the founder, one of the founders of the student organization called Black Island Nation Youth From. It's very difficult to say that in English because we don't have an official English name. I just translate it directly from Chinese. And it should be black or dark because the two words in Chinese they have the pretty much same meaning, which means black means black box operation, or our future is in darkness, or our youth is furious and furious is the color of dark, you know. So this is we call ourselves Black Island Nation Youth Front to simplify our nation's status. Yes, well, it's gone. Okay. Anyway, we found this student organization last year, July, since we have our first protest against the CSSTA cross-strait service trade agreement. Can I just say CSSTA because it's so difficult to say cross-strait. Yes. Okay. So after July 31st, we have our first protest against CSSTA, and so we pushed the government to postpone the whole legislature process. It was going to pass right away, and without any item by item, article by article deliberation. And we pushed them. We made them to postpone the whole process. So and then promised to hold 16 more and 20 total public hearings about the CSSTA. And for your information, the public hearing system in Taiwan is pretty poor. It's very much nothing because the public hearing is often held inside the legislative yuan. And if you are someone who who has concern to the issue, or you want to say something, or you are the one who will be directly impacted, you cannot just go in and attend or participate in the public hearing. You have to be invited by the parties, which is DPP and the KMT, the two major parties in Taiwan. Otherwise, you cannot go in. The policeman will just stop you in front of the door. So we think, well, this is nothing public. This is a private hearing. So at that time we try to enter the public hearing, or say we demand that you have a system. You have to improve the system of public hearings, or even more official hearings that actually have the effect that the official have to follow the conclusion in the hearing. But now public hearing just formality. You don't have to really follow the conclusion. So by the time we demand that after the system is improved, after monetary law is passed, then we can discuss about the CSSTA, and before that the CSSTA has to be rejected, has to be returned, and then we have to renegotiate again with China, because the due process is totally lacking. So, and this is in other city in Taiwan. Is actually in Kaohsiung. I believe that when students and protesters in Taipei occupied the legislative yuan, and those people may not have time to go up to Taipei, or they don't have money for the tickets. I don't know. They will gather in their local train station or local county hall to protest. And you can see, I don't know where this come from. They will just hold their smartphone and open the flashlight and say, "Oh, I support our Taiwan's democracy." And yeah, it's pretty touching. And there's a sign say, "Save your own nation," because just for your information, there's maybe American won't understand that much, because there is a major national identity issues in Taiwan. Well, the my administration, I just told they insist on the one China principle, but the majority of our population does not don't want to be unified with China, and some of the people won't say I'm Chinese. A lot of them will insist I'm Taiwanese. So, well, this does not mean that we don't want to have a close tie with China. It just means we want this connection. We want this relationship to be equal and friendly, and there's no hostility. There's no one side wants to absorb other side. But under the one China principle and under our constitution, there's not such a possibility. So national identity is the major issue in Taiwan, and this is I believe is the 23rd March, where there were about 3,000 I estimate 3,000 protesters occupied the executive yuan, which is
the executive branch, the cabinet building of the
cabinet building. We occupied there, and I was there. I was the commander there. Well, I didn't call all the people there, but when I arrived there, I saw there's a lot of crowd, and they seemed to be a little older. So I just jumped out and said, "Well, listen to me. We have to sit down peacefully, and we have to go to state our proposal very clearly. For example, reject the CSSTA and something like that." And so you can see that people were sitting on the ground, and they held their hands up, and it's very peaceful protest. But they sent out about 5,000 round troops, fully armed. You can see they have helmet, they have shields, and they have the baton, and they have. I don't think you can see it here. two watering cannon, probably the darkest time in the night, and we are facing the crisis of our democracy, and our faith is being challenged. But we believe that the sun is rising, and when the sun rises, we believe we will succeed, and we can go home from the parliament and the street, and we can truly enjoy our democracy. So this is inside the parliament. It's a chamber room where the legislators vote. And actually, if you see the regular day of our legislative yuan on TV, it's much more a chaos than this. You know, it's actually there's a very definite order, and everything is very clear and follows certain rules. But in a regular day, the legislator will just fight with each other and throw glasses with each other, or spill water on other legislative faces. So what happened inside the chamber room was actually very peaceful, and we even held a civil deliberation about the CSSTA. We all sat down and discussed about the trade agreements. Okay, now what impact will it have to our industries? What impact will it have to our minorities and the laborers, or something like that? And what will it impact our nation's sovereignty? So it's actually, if you see this on TV and the TV or media says it's violent or they are all riots, and they disrespect the spirit of democracy, well, I can tell you now that after the first, well, there might be a pushing and shoving and the breaking glasses, since we enter to the chamber room, there's a definite order going on in there, and we believe in the spirit of civil society and the civil deliberation, that we can all be participating, we can all decide our own future. So, yeah. Okay, that's okay. I think that's all right. Yeah. So I just speak that much, and I open to questions. There are a lot of stories in this movement, and I believe some of you can write an essay of it. You know, if you are a graduate student, this is a great topic. So you can start and ask me questions. Okay.
Okay, what is your next step after this protest? Because it's a very long protest, it's less than a day, and right now it seems like people are going home, students are going back to schools. So what's the next? Because still a lot of voices, like different voices, some people support the students, the protesters, but still some people really don't get it. Why do you do this? Why do you do this kind of stuff? It's kind of violent that you break the law, actually. So what's your next step?
Yeah, at the first time that we entered the legislative yuan, I was there and holding microphone, and I told all the crowd, say, now we can go into the legislative yuan. And why are we going into it? Because before that, our system of representative democracy is not functioning well. Those who we elect, they do not listen to who elected. This is the failure of the representative system. So we urge those people outside the legislative yuan to go inside the chamber and take over the parliament and be their own representative. So that was the first idea to go in there. But soon we found out that we cannot use a representative system to replace another representative system. What I mean is, there are too much camera focused on those people inside the chamber room. And it's like the whole point of the movement is the chamber room, and it's in the legislative yuan. But at the first time, what we try to emphasize is where there's people, where there is the chamber room. this is the idea of democracy, is that we have to, after we liberate, after we go in, we occupy the chamber room, we have to take the power out of the small tiny room and back to the people outside on the street, in their house, and everywhere. So we have to, we eventually have to come out of the room and go back to the street, or go back to the campus, or go back to communities to tell people what happened there, and to tell more people about our ideas. So next step will be more student organizations, more non-government organizations, and all over Taiwan, every campus, every county, I hope. Now there are some organizations growing up. For example, there is an organization mainly in the southern and the central part of Taiwan. It's called Democratic Black Tie Black Tie. Because black tie, which means you can see that 30th March, there are 500,000 of people wearing black clothes gathering in the demonstration. So it's like a black tide. So they call themselves Democracy Black Tide. That is a newly found organization in the southern and the central part of Taiwan. It's mainly founded by student organizations. So next step will be like grassroots of the democracy. They go back to their local place and to empower more and more people. That is why, and we have to emphasize that people shouldn't put all their power to, they shouldn't give all their power to a legislator. They have to realize that if they don't listen or they don't reflect the people's will, they can always take it back. So there is a movement now called, they call the legislator, they pull them down from office, because all the, pretty much KMT legislator who, when it comes to voting to a bill, when it comes to vote a bill, they only listen to the will of the president, which is also chairman of the party. So it does not, you can see, it doesn't matter which issue, the plan, the nuclear plan, the land appropriating, the anti-media monopoly, when it goes to the floor, when it goes to voting, you can see those who vote against the reform is always KMT legislator. It's always like that. You can just copy and paste. Copy and paste. It's always like that. So we have to recall those legislators who does not listen to the people's will. So that pretty much will be the next. You can be political way and social, more grassroots social movement way. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm interested in how the protest grew. You know, a group of students start this, but it obviously grew to thousands and thousands of people. Did it mostly just happen, like gravity, or did your group work actively to expand the kind of economy?
First of all, speaking of student organization, because since I'm in a student organization, so I don't know much about the NGO side. But student organizations has grew in very intense network ever since 2008. There's a, what I just said, a wild strawberry movement. Participants went back to their campus, went back to their university, found new student organizations from 2008 till now. It's 5 years or 6 years. Those student organizations really grew well, and we have met each other intensely during in a lot of issues. We see each other in the anti-nuclear plant demonstration. We see each other in the anti-land appropriation demonstration. So there's a very tight connection there. So at first time that a bunch of people broke into the legislative yuan, the connection immediately functioned. That we just call and say, we are now in the legislative yuan. Man, this is huge. Come here. And so student organization from Taichung, from Tainan, from Kaohsiung, all those central and the southern part of Taiwan, they took train or they rent buses overnight to come to legislative year. But that's not much. Student organization does not it's not very much. About 1,000 of them will be very much, but most of the people were they came to the scene because they saw news on the bulletin board system. We still use that. I know it's kind of probably old-fashioned way, but it's the major social media now in Taiwan, the bulletin board system, and also on Facebook. There are a lot of people who came here voluntarily without any organization to tell them to. So this is very important social media factor. And there are also not only students, so I won't call this as a student movement because half of them were students, but more of them were those who are doing business, those who go to work every day, those who maybe elders, something. So it's actually a social movement all over all the aspect of social life everywhere from Taiwan. So I don't know how to, because you know what, I'm also surprised. I was like, wow, where do all those people come from? Because back in last year, back in July or August or September, the activities that we held, the demonstration that we held, about 200 or 500, we will be excited. Wow, this 500 people, that's a lot. But 500,000, where did they all come from? We still have no idea.
Do you know where the strawberry generation perception came from, and how does that influence what you're doing now?
Okay. How the strawberry generation image come from?
Right.
Well, interesting is when we go back to Taiwan's history and we see a newspaper from all the era, we can see, for example, in 1990s, there is a big businessman say, well, Taiwan's teenagers they cannot handle pressure, they are weak, they are vulnerable. And in 2000, there are also such voice. In 2010, there is such a voice. So you know what? There are, each generation will say, well, our younger generation is no good. They cannot handle pressure. So I believe that maybe in America there is also such terms to describe, young people. But I think that the main factor or the very unique factor in Taiwan is that our democracy came to when it will disappear and no one knows about what happened to you. So there is a common fear in Taiwan society until recently. Elders of young student activity will tell their children, their grandchildren, say, don't go down the street, don't go against the government because you never know what will happen to you. So what I'm saying is we have this kind of history that we cannot talk about that. And there's also the problem of the undone transition justice. So the young generation, whether because of their parents told them not to pay attention to public or not to care about public issues, or they tend to ignore the precious or the hard-won democracy. So I think that it's a very difficult situation for the young generation, for us, the youth in Taiwan, but it's changing now because after the 30-second incident, we see how easily our democracy can be thrown away and how close that we are to a unification, or how close we are to the total change of our way of life. So I think it's changing now.
I have a question. Talking about democracy, in terms of the student movement or the movement more broadly, how did you guys make decisions? How was the, within this, because I know in terms of leaving in terms of leaving the legislature, there was some disagreement over whether time. How did you guys organize that?
That's a very good question. And
that's what I get paid for.
Okay, and then you know what? Those media in Taiwan, they will die for information like that, you know. Well, the not democratic, the undemocratic way of decision making in the social movement who struggle for democracy. Well, that's spicy, right? Well, this is well, I can say this on some level true, because there are certain boundaries of decision-making circles, and in the movement, because you can see there is a building called the chamber room, and there are also people outside of the legislative yuan who just sit there and listen to short speeches and something like that, and the decision-making mainly took place in the chamber room, because there is a student where the student leader were, and where the medias, the cameras, is all focused on that. So it will create an idol, an image of the center of the decision power in the chamber room. And also their communication between inside and outside the room was very bad, because the internet access is very limited. There's thousands of people using the Wi-Fi. You can imagine that, you know. Just you cannot go on the internet because too much people is using that, and the phone is being blocked. You know, you cannot speak freely in the phone, because we all know that the government is listening. So the communication inside and outside is very difficult. You can only send some people in to discuss, or send people out to announce something. So the limit of the space is very, very unique during this movement. And back in the 2008, there's also a student movement called Wild Lily. You know, there's a lot of students gather in a square. The Chiang Kai-shek Memorial Hall. And the space is very open. There's no isolations of any kind. It's just wide open plaza. So there's also representative from all the schools. If you are A school, you are B school, you are from C college, you are from D college, you can all have your own representative to join the decision-making circle. But in this time, there's not such system. And so it's different. And also in 2008, there is a very unique way of decision-making. It's the very direct democracy way. For example, this is the plaza in Chiang Kai-shek Memorial Hall in 2008 Wild Strawberry Movement, and I am the decision. We are the decision-making group, but each day we will renew. For example, today you come to the sim and you want to join the decision-making group, you can join it, and you can make your opinion, and you can affect the way of the movement, and next day you leave. So it's very highly mobile, and the boundary is very unclear, and it's very direct democracy. If I say something you don't agree, the participant can just challenge me. So this does not work out. This doesn't work out. It's a total failure as we perceive it. So until now, a lot of student movement were participating in the Wild Strawberry movement, and they think it has to be changed. So if they go to another extreme, they go to the extreme that we limit the power of decision making in a very limited circle. So some of them will think that this is not democratic, but in my opinion, this is still trying, because during the 20 to 30 years of social movement, of student movement, there are a lot of, the condition is different, the structure is different, and the activity have to deal with all those structures. For example, whether or not the space is isolated or is open, whether or not the participant is fixed or mobile. Yeah. So yes, in this time, there is such issues that a lot of NGOs, a lot of student organizations try to participate in the decision-making process, but the limit of the space and the terrible lessons from 2008 Wild Strawberry movement just all contribute to this kind of small circle decision making, and they try their best to include all kind of voice. They have these meetings every day that NGOs can have representative, and the student outside can have representative to attend the meeting, so they can combine all the information they have and make the most proper decision according to what happened, in Taiwan, the whole public situation, politics situation. Okay, any question?
My question is, how responsive has the government been
Okay.
to your demands? For example, you asked that the public hearings actually be made open to the public.
Okay.
So have you received any sort of formal or informal promises that they're going to fix that or address?
Okay, this is a good question because this is the reason why a lot of people were against the decision to get out of the chamber room and end the occupation. A lot of people against that because they say, well, we haven't seen enough promises from the government. The only promise now that we have is from the Speaker of the Legislative Yuan, Wang Jinping. He promised that before the monetary law is passed, the monetary law is mainly about to monitor the trade agreement signed between China and Taiwan. Every trade agreement signed between China and Taiwan will be monitored, will be reviewed according to the law. So he said before the law is passed, there will not be any negotiation. There will be no legislative process going on this issue, which means this bill cannot be discussed, cannot be deliberated, cannot go to vote. It has to go to lawmaking process first. So this is a promise he gave, and also we have to go out of we have to end the occupy, because if we want the monetary law to pass, it has to occur in the chamber room. They have to vote. They cannot do the voting outside the chamber room. So this is the only promise that we have, that is before the law is passed, the CSSTA won't go to vote, won't go to review. But we are not sure whether or not they will keep this promise. And we also demand that we have to return the current version of this trade agreement, because it's a product of black market cooperation, and it's a product of which like any kind of civil participation. So the demand that we return it is not respond. But if the monetary law is passed, this has to be returned because it didn't fit. The CSTA won't reach the requirement of the monetary law, so it goes back, it traces back. So if the law is passed, it will trace back to the CSTA, says, well, you didn't fit the requirement, you have to be rejected, you have to renegotiate. So this is, speaking of the promise from government, pretty much the only one. I believe we achieved more. The whole aura of the society, a lot of discussion about the CSTA, which never happened before, and the young generation waking up and participating in such issues. Hey.
So one of the things that's impressed me the most about the student movement in Taiwan is the widespread participation and passion among the entire population, and among the students in particular. One of the issues I see here in the United States is that a lot of people are very apathetic or do not care about political issues. How then have you guys inspired such passion among the students in participating in this sort of thing?
So what I'm saying is that in Taiwan, the young people seem to be very passionate about those political and the social issues, and which in America is kind of not the case, right? Okay. Well, I understand that, and when I was on this trip in the U.S., I heard people saying that because the system of democracy in America is much more mature, so it's has less problems and it caused less anger. I think, I don't know, maybe this is up to your judgment. But in Taiwan, the system of democracy is all kind of problem in our system. So I can just say we are inspired by our president that they give us the passion. You know, the President Ma, the KFD party, Ma administration gave us the passion because it was them, it is them, and always them who create social issues, who create public issues that is clearly not democratic. They made a lot of mistakes. So we have to give credit to them. That all the student activities that emerged in a so short of period of time and such intense patience and intense, because if we are confident, we will just let the system run itself. We will let the legislator do their job. But as I just said, our legislators normally don't do their job. So I think the Taiwan society now is not confident. It's not confident of our own government, and we are keeping an eye on them, and we are trying to build a more a monetary system that we can participate more and participate more directly. So, and your question is?
I was wondering how much the DPP has embraced your organization.
How much what?
The opposition party has, has embraced your organization, and if that's good for you, if they have.
Well, one of the most common judgment from the media is that the DPP, which is Democratic Progress Party, it's an opposition party in Taiwan. The DPP party is behind all of this and manipulating those students, something like that. But actually, long before the student movement or long before the social movement took place, back in 2008, when the ECFA, the Economic Cooperation Framework Agreement between China and Taiwan, is signed. Back in that time, DPP was already protesting such kind of agreement. So I think I have to give credit to them. They have been doing their job, although they might not doing the most they can. Sometimes, because you know, they sometimes just, okay, let's go to vote. But go to vote means to give up in Taiwan's political structure. That going to vote is to give up. And sometimes we want them to be more aggressive, more creative. So on some level, they actually do their job. And if you see in this movement, some of the DPP legislators even help the student, help the protester to defend the chamber room being evicted. There have been a lot of time. There have been times that police trying to break into the chamber room and evict all the people in there. But some of the DPP legislators would just sit in front of the student and say, well, you don't come in, you shall not pass, like that. Yes. So yeah, they are doing their job, and I think I will give credit to them. But and they're not behind us because we are trying to stay a distance, away from those politicians. We even ask that you cannot bring your flag, you cannot wear your party jacket to the scene. Yes, but I think in the long term we have to, the social movement have to cooperate with the opposition party as long as they are not against our demands. That means if they are not trying to use the movement as their own benefit, for their own benefit. Okay. Okay.
I have another question. How has this affected the students' academics? Like, so many students missed so much school, so are they now all failing their classes, or how do we live with
Well, I actually skipped 2 classes on this trip. So, I haven't emailed my teacher yet, but I believe he knows because when I was arrested and detained in the office, in the police office. He was there waiting for me, so I believe he is aware of what's going on. I also failed to go to my TA class this morning, so I think I have to return my salary to my boss. Anyway, what I'm saying is, the teachers they are all aware of this, and there are even a movement that the teachers say, well, you know what, you don't have to come into classroom for this class. You can go there, and you can, like on the Facebook, you can you can post an article in the Facebook, say, well, I'm now in the legislative yuan, and send it to the teacher, and the teacher will say, okay, you are not absent from the class. So some will just they stop the class for a week or two. So they are very considerate. But well, yeah, we have to go back to school now since the movement is coming to a period, or say comma. Yeah. And I'm a graduate student, so I have to think about my essay and the proposal, something like that. I have to graduate in 4 years. No, in 2 years. Well, I think student movement, and I think teacher is has been a major supportive force during the whole movement, because in Taiwan's history, back in 1980, there is also a student movement, and the teacher will just bring the class to the scene of the movement to say, okay, we just have the class here. So I think it's a very good opportunity of democratic education. And there are also middle school students come to the movement, and we were really worried. In the night of March 23rd, 24th, which was the eviction took place, the violent eviction took place. There were thousands of people there, and I have to say, if there is any student under 18 or any student in the middle school or high school, we advise you to leave the scene for your own security, because I know it's kind of political. It's not very political correct, because everyone has their their right to participate in the movement. But the problem is there are a lot of people under 18 and participate in this, and we have to think for most of their security. So this is funny, just a story.
Well, one other thing, real quick, I'll add to that, and then we'll break it up. But the Minister of Education actually came out and announced essentially to the universities, you shouldn't punish the students for what they've done. They should be free to return to their classes. They shouldn't be penalized for that. But now there's a big debate in the government over whether people like him are going to go to jail, right?
Yeah.
And whether they're going to be, he's not worried about it. Give you a lot of time to write your dissertation.
There's when I was in the on the night of March 24th, I was arrested on the scene, just like a dozen of SWAT team just pushed me down and kicked my head and cuffed me and took me to the police station. And I was detained. Detained, and they tried to keep me in the detention room. That's called, I don't know what's the word in the process. Anyway, the news say I'm the first one in the social movement of Taiwan history to be detained. Anyway, what I'm trying to say, I was accused of six crime, six of them, and that's about 15 cases, and then just for this movement, and the most it can be sentenced to about 7 years, I guess, 7 or 6 years. But we have this group of voluntarily lawyer group to defend for us, and one of my lawyers is actually running for the mayor of Taipei this time. He's a really famous human rights activist. Yes, Mr. Gu. Yes.
All right, well, I would like to thank you very much for your talk, and we have some gifts for you. From
Just to let you know, you're always welcome at Austin College. It's kind of the color of the sunflower, so let us know that our
Okay.
thoughts are with you.
Should I just? Okay, sure. I can tell you a story of sunflower. Why is this one called sunflower? There's a very particular morning. There is a businessman who runs a sunflower store. Flower store is sell flower to people. They had a bunch of sunflower they want to give to a student inside the chamber room. But the policeman stopped him right there, and so he had to distribute all the sunflower to the protester, to the people around the legislative and on the scene. So everyone held a sunflower on their hand, and the media caught that image and will say sunflower movement. And the student activists in the chamber room, they woke up and found themselves as a student of sunflower movement. So this is a very interesting coincidence because we never decided to use the term sunflower. It's just a coincidence of the contingency of history. And thank you anyway. We think that it's a very good symbol of the movement because to shed light on the island, which darkness took over for a long time.
Yeah, and actually the word Taiyang,
Yeah.
isn't actually the normal word for sunflower, right?
Yeah.
What's the?
Counterpoint.
Yeah, counterpoint. So and now it's Taiyang, meaning literally like the English sunflower because the sun will shine the light on the black box of politics.
Yes,
So they
and
change things.
thank you for this.
Thank you very much.